name is Julie Pomerleau, also known as J Pomerleau Art, and today I am going to walk you through a watercolor painting of a Monstera. Now that I have everything done, I want to do my first wash. So I am going to first come up with my first color. And Monstera is like a nice bluish green, like it's kind of a dark green. So I'm going to take my sap green and put it in a new palette. And I just keep on like wetting my brush in between and make sure to always use the dirty water bucket. And I'm gonna keep on wetting it so I can get like a good amount of color into this one palette. And I always like to like squish out my paintbrush to try and get as much pigment out of there as possible. And then I'm gonna take a clean brush and I'm going to grab some of this cobalt blue. And I'm gonna give it a good blue base or undertone. All right, we're getting closer to a Monstera color. Again, I'm going to squish out as much color from my paintbrush as possible. What am I gonna get next? Okay, now I'm going to grab some burnt umber. Yes, burnt umber. I'm gonna go in there to give it more of a natural color. Because there's always a little bit of brown in leaves in that green. Am I happy with that? Yes, I am happy with that. Okay, so now I'm going to consider where my lighting is coming from, because this is important for your first wash, so that you can understand where your lighting is coming from. So my lighting, I feel like, is going to come from this angle right here. So it's going to come in like this. So this area is going to be very, very pale. This is actually gonna be in the front. So this side is going to be much paler than this side, and then this is in the back, so that's going to be pretty dark and shadowy. So now I am going to take a clean brush, and I'm going to take clean water, and I am going to wet down everywhere where I want that paint to flow. So I'm going to avoid these cutout areas, except for this one, because this Monstera leaf in the back here has no cutouts and it's behind it. So just continuing to wet everything down. This is called a wet on wet technique, because you're wetting down your paper and then you're going to okay, no problem. And then you are going to put on a wet paint pigment as well. And I'm gonna do this. So I am going, and I want to make sure that it stays pretty wet. And I mean, the way that I tend to look at everything is by looking at the light and seeing, you know, if it shines off the wet paper or not. So I'm gonna do it to these two leaves first, but I am going to get the stem of that one up there. And the third leaf, this is not really wet. Okay, we're almost done, I believe. Now I forget what parts I wet and which ones I didn't. Okay, so perfect. Now I'm going to take that paintbrush with Watercolor on it, and I have quite a bit of paint on this. And I am going to start just putting it on and watching it move around and bleed. And if, like me, you have spots that are less wet than others, so your paint kind of pools instead of doing this nice bleeding part, then feel free to just add more clean water to that area. Cool, nice base color. Grabbing more paint. Now I'm going to be aware of where my hot spots are, so where the paint, or where the light's gonna hit it, I'm sorry. And I'm gonna go like this. And one of my favorite things about watercolor is manipulating the paint, really. So I like leaving like certain areas a lot darker than others, especially when you consider where your lighting sources. So because I know that my lighting source is going to come from this way, this side is going to be much darker for me than the other side. If that makes sense. And I think it does. So there you go. That's looking good. And I'm even gonna go in and make certain areas like darker. Especially down here, because this leaf down here is much darker than the rest. And I'm going to have to make more color soon, because I am eating up a lot of it. And I like to make my corners specifically really dark. That's just personal preference. And I also know that this Monstera leaf is going to be on top of this Monstera leaf. So I am adding, by just dabbing, some color. And when you tend to dab, when you like put your brush down and move, then it tends to like bring a lot of the color with you. So by dabbing, you'll see it's just creating these little areas, like pockets of pigment that are just kind of sitting there. And I have this fun little bubble here, so I'm curious to see if that creates anything fun. Anyways, to the rest of the painting. And this one I'm going to do more general because of the fact that there isn't as much, I don't want as much pigment in it on this side, because of the fact that this side is going to have some of the light. So you'll see that I'm leaving certain areas untouched, because especially this middle part, because that middle part is going to be much lighter than the rest. And I just really like when I use more of a bleeding effect, which is what I really love about using the wet on wet technique. Oops, oh well. Is you kind of just get this like fun bleeding look going on. So I'm really happy with that. Oh yeah, and then this is this stock. Okay, so I need to mix more color. So I'm going to let my brush sit. I'm not going to clean it because I want to use that. And then I'm going to take clean water, and again, I am going to wet everything down. Now the way that I have this drawn is that this is the top of the leaf and then this is the bottom of the leaf. So actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the bottom of the leaf first, because that's going to be a lot darker than the rest of the leaf. And that's a cutout. The nice thing about these flat wash brushes, or these angled brushes, is that they have a nice point to them. Got that, and almost done. Got it. Perfect. All right. Now I'm just gonna float in more color. But I'm gonna float in quite a bit of color because actually this is gonna be the underneath and it's gonna be dark. Because this is where your shadow's going to be. So this is the underside of the leaf again. So it's going to be a lot darker, and then this is the above side of the leaf. And again, I am just gonna kind of let this nice fun feathery look go, except I don't think I properly wet this down, so let's do that again. All right, cool. I am super happy with this for my first wash. Now I'm going to want to get this top part too, but this is where my hairdryer comes in because I don't feel like waiting for everything to dry because this is a pretty wet canvas at this point. I mean, it's not damp, it's not soaked. There's the only place where there's like actual puddles seem to be right here and then right there. So it's pretty damp, like enough for the colors to move around properly. But what I do want to do, I want to make this darker again, just because this is where that top leaf is over top of this bottom leaf. And I think that would look cool if they were darker. I want it very dark. There we go. Okay, so now that we have done this first wash, I'm going to blow dry it. And now if you are also using blow dryer, I just want you to be aware that you're going to be blowing around some of this color. So you could actually add more color. I'm personally going to be blowing this way so that all my color runs this way because my light's coming this way and I feel like that's going to be more natural. Alright, so now all this is nice and dry, so I'm going to go in with my top wash. So now that that's done, I'm going to take this, see how much color is on that. So I'm just gonna put a light piece right here. And then taking a clean wet brush, I'm just gonna kind of push this around because I don't want too much color on this. And if this is going up, it creates like a little bit of a divot in the actual leaves. So I'm going to quickly just add a little bit more shape right here. There you go. So now with the shape, it's like creating a little bit more depth. So I'm just gonna push this around. I don't really care if it gets all to the edges because we are doing a nice loose painting, which means more of like less detailed. I have some very detailed paintings, but this is a beginner's painting tutorial, so I want to leave it like that. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paint over this part to make it look like these cutouts. So I'm going to actually because there's going to be shading behind everything, because obviously leaves are a little bit more transparent. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab my paper towel and I'm going to dab it up so it creates more of like a transparent look. And I'm going to do the same here. So if I remember correctly, it was like this. And this came down. Like so. I'm gonna grab a little bit more water, and I think I just dipped my dirty brush in my clean water, so I'm gonna have to go get more water. I'm gonna look though, because I may be okay. There you go. I want this to be more of a point. There. And then right here. There. So what I basically did was painted where this top leaf would be over top of this other leaf, and that creates like this shadow look. I kind of like how this looks. That's cool. Also, I forgot to do a stem, so I'm just gonna say this stem is coming from like over here. So I'm actually not gonna touch that. That is fine. Okay. What am I gonna do next? Okay, now I'm just going to add, because I already have really dark on my paintbrush, I'm just going to add a really dark line all the way along the edge of this bottom leaf to help create more of like a shadow look on the bottom side of the leaf. Oops, I actually do need more color. And then we're gonna have to make a shadow of this stem, so I'm gonna put that right there. Perfect. All right. Now for my second wash, I want less of a brown green and more of like a rich kind of bluish turquoise green. So I'm going to ignore this color and I'm going to mix a new green in this palette down here. So I'm gonna grab some more of that sap green. And more of that cobalt blue. A little bit more until I get like a nice turquoise color, and I like this color. All right, so this is gonna be the color that we're using from now on, because this is more of like a base color, and now I want to have more of a vibrant green over top of the whole thing. Okay, so what are we gonna do next? Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a technique called lifting. So you're going to take, this is still drying over here and up here, so I'm not gonna touch that. We're gonna work on this big leaf. So we're gonna do a lifting technique where we do the ridges of the leaves themselves. So you're gonna take a nice brush with like a flat edge. So you can use one of these flat wash brushes as well. I might not even use this throughout the entire painting. You can even take like one of these brushes. For me personally, I'm going to use a flat angle brush, and I'm gonna take my clean water, which actually looks still really nice and clean. I'm going to wet my paintbrush, and I'm going to just dry it off on the paper towel right next to me so that I have a nice damp brush. So I'm gonna do that again so you can see what I mean. And I'm gonna have my paper towel at ready. And I'm gonna want to create that big vein down the center. So I'm gonna go like this. And I'm just going to dab it up. So what we are doing right here is we are actually lifting up the color from the painting itself. So watercolor painting or paper has a lot of like material in it, so it can absorb paint or pigment, but you can also lift it out. So I'm going to do a nice lifting motion for this center vein, this big vein down the middle of the leaf, and I hope you can tell that I am actually lifting out some of the paint. And I like the way that this is kind of crooked, so I'm going to continue that. I'm actually going to grab my thinner brush, and I am going, oops, too wet. I'm going to like kind of give it some edginess. Because I think it's a very cool shape and I want to keep it. Okay, cool. All right. Just gonna do that one more time. See if I can get some cool. So again, we are wetting down the paper. and dabbing off the color in a very specific area, and it's only going to grab up what's wet. Cool. I'm very happy with that nice crisp line down the center there. And now I'm going to create the lines. So what I'm going to do right now, when you have a vein on a leaf, you have one side that's always darker, and then you have your middle side, and then you always have the other side that's a little bit lighter because of the fact that the vein creates like this bubble shape, like much like this right here. And that's just the way that the paint or the light hits it. So to make it a lot easier to see, I'm going to add in that shadow first. So this is called a dry brush technique. So essentially you're just grabbing paint off a dry paper and you are just creating, and you're just putting down a line. So my first one is going to be right from this area right here. I'm gonna do that. That's gonna be the first one. The second one's just gonna be below that. And there's gonna be one in between here. Oh, that's a lot of pigment. Right here. And then here. Right here, and then a bunch of small ones. I like that. All right, perfect. And then I'm gonna do the other side too. So it's going to look very similar. Ooh, I'm glad that didn't fall on my paper. So it's gonna go right here, right here. All right, and now that I have an idea of where my veins are gonna be, I am going to go and lift out right along the edge. And having a really thin brush makes this really so much easier. There we go, we got two. Three. This is the precision work in watercolor that I absolutely love. All right, now when we do the other side, it's going to lift out much easier because it's much darker, as you can see. I'm gonna clean that. There we go. Alright. So now we have these dark sides, middle, and then light sides. Alright. So for my next thing is that the middle are kind of a different color, like just a slightly different color. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to mix a third thing of green. It's going to be very similar to this one, except it's going to have more of this yellow color that you get from the sap green than the blue. And I'm actually going to take some yellow ochre, just a little bit of it, and put it in there. A little bit more. There. That's the color that I'm going to use for this middle part. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to clean my brush, wet my brush again, grab a little bit of pigment, and then I'm going to go over it. And I'm actually going to like dab it up a bit, so you'll only get like, so you get like a shadow of the color, not even the full color itself. Then I'm going to go down the sides as well. And I'm going to dab it near the tips of the leaves so that you get like this fade in color. Cool. I'm happy with that. Okay, and now we're going to add that vein into this leaf back here. Because it is part of the stem technically. And then you're gonna have one over here. And you're also gonna have one come out. Actually, I'm going to lift this up. I don't like the placement of that at all. So instead, I'm going to put it like that. And this can go more like that. There we go. And if I don't like something, then I'm just going to go with my water and I'm going to lift it out. There. And you can barely even tell it was there. Cool, 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 cool. I guess I'm going to add some veins into down here as well. So I'm going to grab my dark green again, the darkest green that I have. And this time, I'm going to say this is the center, so I'm actually going to just paint Okay, so this is a cool technique. So I'm gonna paint this thick line, and I'm gonna take this brush, make sure it's pretty much dry, like there is no extra paint on this, and I'm just gonna pull away to create like a feathery look. So it creates like almost a shadow. I'm gonna keep on cleaning off my brush. Cool. And I'm going to do the same for the other side. And then I'm going to lift the center part. And I'm also going to create like this shadowy effect in between so that you can tell where the leaves are. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah. I think that's good. Happy with that. Okay, so this is all dry, so now we're going to continue working on this leaf. I'm going to clean off my brush, my number 8 brush. I am going to grab, oops, I don't want the yellow water. I want that medium green, the middle green, if you will, the one that's more blue. And I'm going to kind of, so the way that the sun is coming is from this angle, or our light source. So it's going to hit along this ridge, and because it's going to do this like U shape, it means that all this is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to color in right here, and I'm going to pull it out with a clean dry brush. Add a little more color to it. Add a little more color there. Oops. And finally, make it a little darker here. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to, because I'm assuming that this is a little bit curved, so I'm going to add more darkness over here. Oops. As you can see, if I make a little mistake, all you have to do is kind of go in and lift it up. I'm just going to dab some color in there so that it bleeds upwards. Add more color. And I am just going to paint in underneath. I like how this is going so far. You like it?
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks. Thank you.
A little bit of perspective on the big leaf there. Yeah, it looks like it dips into the leaf.
Oops. I'm just gonna pull this stem color. Pull and continue just layering on, lifting and adding more shadow. And I'm going to do that. Okay, so for this upper leaf, I can tell that my high spots with a lot of sun hitting it or light is going to be these top two ridges. So that means that these bottom areas that dip are going to hold a lot of the shadow. So I'm going to wet this entire top part of this leaf again. And I'm going to grab more color and float in where I think the low light areas will be. So right there, and then it's going to go down here, so right here a little bit. It's going to hit there. Hi, cat. My cat is begging for attention right now. Hello, attention. Alright, I'm not going to touch that anymore. I like the way that that looks so far. And I like the layering that we have going on here. So I'm going to continue that process of just layering again. And feathering out. Yes, cat, I hear you. What do you want? Now my paint brush is getting a little dry right now, which is why you're seeing it have more of these jaggedy edges, which I kind of like. And now with like a little bit of color on my brush, I'm gonna go in and like make these edges a little nicer. And also what this does is it makes it look more convincing because your leaf is going to be bending. So it creates more of like a shadow area. I'm just going to continue to lift where I think would look good. I'm going to continue layering on details. Lift the center one more time. Up here, I really like how this shading's going, so I'm going to make it darker now that's a little bit more dry. now I'm adding like an outline to the top of all the areas with veins. Pick up more color. And do that to the same over here, but like lighter on this side. I'm going to pick this up. Go, because I just wanted to create more of like a shadow. Then I'm going to lift out the top of this area right here, because this is the leaf below it. Start, I like how this is turning out. And I'm going to take I'm going to take my really thin brush. I'm going to create, using the dry brush technique that we discussed, I'm going to create vines on this leaf below. So there's some ones right here, some here. do this shading again over here. And pull it away. So this technique that I'm doing here is I'm outlining it in really dark, and then with like a damp brush, I'm taking it and I'm pulling it out to create like this shadow kind of faded look to it. So it's not like a hard edge, but you still get some of that good shading in there. That good shading. And I don't like how hard this line is too. So I'm going to kind of muddle that up a bit. I'm not looking for like super crisp lines here. Just kind of like, you know, maybe that's a line. But what I do want to create is shadows for this leaf below it. So I'm going to take some of this, and then more, because it's coming from here, so your shadows are going to be lower. And if it's coming from here, that means the bottom is going to have a nice shade on it. Alright, now I want to make some hot spots. So if it's coming from here, I'd say a hot spot would be right here. I'm just gonna mess that up. But this is a good brush, so I'm gonna take more of a crappy brush that I have and lift it all up. This is just like a big brush that I have at my disposal. So I'm just creating hot spots right now. And that's the nice thing about working with like really high quality paper, is that you can do things like this without it having to worry about it like tearing up or anything like that. Alright, and there you have it. I'm really happy with this, how this looks, so, and if you are too, then feel free to sign your name. If you are a beginner, I would suggest that you sign it via a piece of pencil or like a pen kind of thing. My personal preference is I like to use a brush. And the date is, this is January 2021. Just gonna go look at this. Feel free to sign up wherever you like. I like incorporating it into my actual painting, and once this is all dry, then you can just peel it all off. Like so. And always peel away from the paper, because far too often I peeled it and ripped off part of my painting. And there you go. Now you have a beautiful frame-worthy Monstera paint. If you enjoyed this, sign up for one of my classes or follow me on Instagram at jpomerleauart. Again, that's at jpomerleauart. Feel free, you can buy some prints if you want to, reach out to me, or check out my website for some art prints. Sign up for one of the group classes or one-on-one classes with me. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you.